Hello, my name is Deanie, and I'm on a quest to learn everything I possibly can. I was recently given a treasure trove of photography equipment from someone who didn't use it anymore, and I thought this was the perfect chance for me to learn photography myself. So, I invite you to follow along as I take these first steps into becoming a photographer for real. First step, I need to get a baseline of what I actually got, so then I can move forward through my journey. Here's a list of everything I have. I've got this tripod. It has a wonky insert and it twists on its own. It's not super rigid. I've got this tripod that I bought from Amazon a long time ago. It also has a wonky insert, but it can also hold my phone, so that's kind of neat. I've got 3 microSD adapters, 1 microSD card, one 32GB SD card, one 16GB SD card, and one 8GB SD card. And finally, onto the cameras, I've got the Nikon D3100 with a 18 to 55mm lens and a 55 to 200mm lens, as well as a Sony Handycam HDR CX405 and an Olympus VR350 16 megapixel. Okay, cool. Now I know what I have. It's time to take a picture. Now, I've used this camera and I know how to take a picture. You hit this button up top, but I don't even know what this button is called or why I have to press it down a little bit before I press it all the way. So in order to deepen my understanding, I have to do something a little scary. I'm going to read the manual. I found the Nikon D3100 manual online and started reading, and 3 seconds into it, I found a term I did not recognize. SLR, or single lens reflex. I've heard of SLRs, but I didn't know what they stood for. And also, that previous statement is kind of a lie. I've heard of DSLRs, not SLRs. So what exactly is the difference? I guess it's time to do a little bit of research. So SLR, as a term, originated from film cameras and is a system that allows a photographer to see what the lens sees, allowing them to frame a shot exactly how they want it without just kind of guessing. This applies to my camera as being able to look through the viewfinder and see what my camera sees. Pretty helpful stuff. The reason why I have heard of DSLRs and not SLRs is probably because SLR cameras use film and DSLR cameras use sensors. My camera does not use film, so it is a DSLR. I would love to dive deeper into the mechanisms of how a camera works, and honestly, as I go on, I'm definitely going to do that, but that isn't the focus of this video, so I'm going to move on. Another thing I learned in these first couple of pages is that the cameras need to be serviced every 1 to 2 years. I don't think this camera has been serviced since it was bought in 2010. I don't even know where I would get that done. So for now, I'm going to pretend I didn't read that. Moving on, there's a wonderful diagram that shows the button names and whatnot, but the ones I'm most interested in at this point are the shutter release button, the mode dial, and the menu button. On the mode dial, there are a bunch of settings, but at this point I only care about a few. The auto mode is probably what I'm going to begin with, but my end goal is to take all my pictures in manual mode, where I can control all the settings for my perfect picture. To be honest, I am just going to ignore the rest of these for now. The second thing I should mention is the release mode selector, which basically decides how many pictures are taken at a time. There's the single frame mode, continuous mode, self-timer mode, and quiet mode. For pretty much all of the photos I plan on taking, I'll probably use the single frame mode, which just takes a single picture. But if there's a moving object, I might use continuous mode, because then if I hold the button down, it'll take pictures continuously. I guess if I'm taking a picture of a bat or like an owl, I'll go into quiet mode, but I am too scared to do that, so I don't think that'll come up. Okay, I think I'm ready to turn my camera on. I see a lot on the screen, and I'll definitely need to learn what all this means. My camera is in classic mode instead of graphic mode, so if the layout of information here seems different than yours and you're using the same camera, you can see the different options and settings for how you want your information displayed. There's this funny wheel at the top of my camera near the mode dial, and that's called the command dial. Basically, you link it to a setting and it will change based on what direction you spin it. In manual mode, based on what I can tell, the command dial on my camera is linked to the shutter speed, making it faster if I turn right and slower if I turn left. At this point, I'm not sure what shutter speed is, but I'll figure it out later. Holding the exposure concentration button while turning the command dial changes the aperture. Holding the FN or function button and turning the command dial changes the ISO, and holding the flash mode button and turning the command dial changes the flash mode. Once again, I have no idea what any of this means, but it's cool to see all the options I'm going to have in the future. Now onto the viewfinder. I can look through this little screen at the top here and see a display that shows me my settings and focus points. That's cool and all, but I doubt I'll be using that much. I would guess that if I had to change my settings on the fly, I'd probably not even look at the number and just change it and hope for the best. Okay, I think I'm finally ready to take a picture. This is exciting stuff. Just kidding, my camera died. This camera has a battery that you can just chuck onto a wall to charge, so that was kind of funny, but now it's charged, and finally I can take a picture. This has to be special. Something meaningful. Something that'll be a lasting memory of my very first image in my photography journey. I took a picture of my shoes. I think it turned out okay. Well, that's progress. I'm going to leave episode 1 here and continue on my journey another time. If you enjoyed this and want to continue watching me learn and perhaps learning along with me, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Happy learning.